I'll go. Nancy Loosely representing Fairfield Estates. And I would say one of my favorite things is I realize we're talking about it tonight, but reading through the ethics policy, I appreciate that we have a city government who sees an issue and is willing to address it, and really take the time to get feedback also. I think that's been very beneficial too. So I think that's one of the things that I appreciate about our city.
Thank you. And I really advocated that the district advisory boards were able to weigh in on this. So thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
It means a lot to me. All right, who wants to go next?
I'll go next. Tyler York, living in Sierra Hills on the southern end of District 2. And I really like Wichita's traffic or lack thereof. I'm getting ready to travel again now that I'm fully vaccinated. And I'm going to be reminded of how nice Wichita's, how easy it is to get around the city compared to others in our nation.
And I actually got to meet Tyler in person a couple of weeks ago for the first time, and that was great. So hopefully the folks I haven't met yet because of pandemic and still not being able to meet in person will meet soon. All right, who wants to go next? We got a few more left.
I'll go next.
All right, Sam.
I'm Sam Lindeman, represent the Bonnie Bray area. And I think my favorite thing about Wichita is the people we have here in this part of the country. When Tyler talked about traveling, when I traveled, boy, we really have some really nice people here in Wichita.
Good. I love it. All right, we got 4 left. Who wants to go next?
I'll go.
I can go ahead and go. It's Alicia Sanchez.
Go, Alicia.
Oh, okay, sorry. Good evening, Alicia Sanchez, Sycamore Village. My favorite thing, this weekend we went out to Botanica and all the beautiful tulips were blooming and all the flowers. So just the wonderful opportunity we have to be able to enjoy the beauty of the city and Botanica. So that's my favorite thing.
Thank you very much. Okay, Steve, you're next.
All right. Steve Lebeda, Rockwood Community. I'm excited to see things opening back up. Tim mentioned WSU baseball, with the new stadium opened, and just kind of, I was out Sunday driving around in my Jeep and just seeing a lot of people out and about riding scooters downtown and everything. Just, it's kind of exciting, spring sprung and all that. So
nice. Great. All right. Chris or Tracy?
This is Chris. Hello, I'm from Northbrook neighborhood, just across the creek from Tim. And one of the best things I like about Wichita is that I wasn't able to attend, but that there was baseball in the new stadium. So looking forward to the new team getting started and going to enjoy some baseball.
Thank you. And last but not least, Tracy.
Hi, everyone. Adam. As you can see, I'm outside. But and what I love about Wichita, I think that's what we're talking about, is the friendship that develops.
I'm not sure about anyone else, but Tracy, your connection is pretty bad, so we couldn't hear. So in case you can't get it fixed, if you have comments for other agenda items, you may want to put them in the chat, and we'll make sure that we keep an eye on that if that's okay. Hopefully your connection gets better. All right, we're going to go ahead to the next item, which is our District Advisory Board Oath of Office. And we have Jamie, who's joining us this evening, who's going to help us with this. And I need to extend a sincere apology to Tim. Tim, I thought that since you just got appointed, I didn't have to reappoint you this time. So I was incorrect. So Tim, we'll get you. So you won't take your oath of office this evening, but we'll get with Jamie, and Corey's going to help you take care of that. So you can still vote this evening, everything just like a normal member, but you won't take the oath of office this evening. So sorry about that. That was my bad. I thought we just put you in a couple months ago so we wouldn't have to do it again, but found out that I was incorrect. So my apologies. So Jamie, I'll let you introduce yourself. And then Jamie, we don't let our guests off the hook. So you also have to tell your favorite thing about Wichita.
Okay, I'm Jamie Buster with the City Clerk's Office. And my favorite thing about Wichita, there's so much to do, and like having a toddler, it's you need a lot of stuff to do. You can't just stay at home all the time. So like this last weekend, even though it's not in Wichita, it's in Goddard, but we went to Tanganyika. Then we went to a park, and so there's just always something to do in town. So that's why I love Wichita.
Fantastic. Thank you. Well, before we swear everyone in, I always just want to say thank you for being here, Jamie. I know you're really busy, but then also just the process of swearing in. I know y'all take it very seriously. I do too. And every time you do it, it warms my heart. I was a district advisory board member, but then also your oath is very similar to what we take as city council member and mayor. So that's how much we really believe in the process and getting community involvement and citizen involvement. So Jamie, take it away.
All right, everybody being sworn in tonight, I need your cameras on and your mics unmuted. Okay, I think we have everybody. All right, so if you could just raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I,
Chris Broderick,
Solemnly swear
I,
to the
Alicia Sanchez,
Constitution of the United States
solemnly
solemnly
swear
swear
States.
to the Constitution of the
the
United
Constitution of the United
States.
Constitution of the
States
state,
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and the
And the
Constitution of the State
Constitution
of
of the State of
Kansas,
and the
Kansas,
Constitution of the state of this,
and faithfully discharge the duties
and faithfully
faithfully
discharge the
discharge
duties
the
the
duties
duties
faithfully discharge the
of the District 2 Advisory Board
of the District
District
Advisory Board
of the District 2 Advisory Board
for the City of Wichita, Kansas, so help me God.
for the
for
City
the
of
city
Wichita,
of
City of
Kansas.
Wichita,
Kansas.
Kansas.
for the City of Wichita,
Oh my God.
Kansas, so help me.
All right, perfect. You guys are good to go. I'm going to mail you a packet just like I did last year. And you'll have those 2 forms to sign and send back to me in the self-addressed stamped envelope.
All right. Thank you,
Sounds
Jamie.
good.
Back to
Thank
your toddler, right?
No, I'm jumping back onto my county advisory board meeting right now.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here with us. We appreciate it. And we'll work with Tim to get him sworn in.
All right, thanks. Have a
Awesome.
good night.
Thank you. The next on the agenda is just the approval of the agenda, but it did remind me too that I was remiss, and I know Corey's having a really bad connection this evening, but Corey, if you are able, would you like to introduce yourself and your favorite thing about Wichita? Sorry about that.
Corey Bukta, I'm the Community Services Representative for District 2. And my favorite thing about Wichita is I'm going to go with all of the great local places to grab a drink.
Okay. I like it. Whatever type of drink you like, right? There's plenty of
Yep.
options.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. So next is the approval of the agenda. I would welcome a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Nazira. Second.
Second.
Nancy, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, we will proceed. Corey also sent out the minutes from last month, from March 8th of 2021. I would welcome a motion to approve the minutes from March 8th of 2021.
I so move.
Thank you, Faith. And a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Sam. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
Sorry about that. I didn't hear anything.
Okay. And anyone need to abstain because they weren't here last month?
I'll need to abstain.
Okay. Thank you, Tyler. All right. So moving on.
And Alicia Sanchez will also need to abstain.
Okay. Thank you, Alicia and Tyler. Awesome. So we don't have any scheduled items. For off agenda items, is there any of our community members who are joining this evening who wanted to talk about an item or anything in the community that's not on the agendas presented this evening? All right, hearing none, we will move on. Let's go to staff reports. Fire department.
Hello, how's everybody doing tonight? Everybody
Good.
pretty good. My name's Terry Gresham. I am a battalion chief here in the 3rd Battalion over here on the east side of town. I don't think I've done a DAB 2 and well, probably a long time, but I haven't been out east for a while. I was promoted officially to battalion chief back in December, and I've been over here on the east side since. Before that, I was over on the west side, so I got moved out here. There's a few things I want to go over. I sent some sheets out. I'm going to see if I can get some stuff to come up on the share screen. Bear with me. I'm going to try. Let's see if it can work. I don't know. Can you guys see any of these or no?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Okay, there should be it should say close before you doze fact sheet. Is that showing up?
It's not.
Okay, let me try. Oh, wait a minute. Now I know what I did wrong. I'm sorry. I'm not that technical. Let's see if that works.
Okay. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, that should be the close before you doze fact sheet. This was brought and put together from the downtown individuals, I believe in Pub Ed and stuff. And this is just some different facts. I have emailed it to your coordinator, and he should be able to email it to everybody else. Some good information. A few things that I want to just try to hit on the most is the average room temperature. If you don't have your door closed, the average room temperature can get up to 1,000 degrees in your house. So that's why it's so important to close that door. If you have your door closed, it's going to stay at about 100 degrees in your room. So that's why it's so important to make sure to close that door. Besides that, it'll keep out the carbon monoxide, keep out the smoke. Few other things on here. The fires are faster now due to all the oil-based products that we have. So usually 17 years ago, or 17 minutes is how long it usually took for a fire to burn and build up 40 years ago. Today it goes up within 3 minutes, usually to give you time to escape from your home. Let's see what else. Usually, and this is a fact, and I know it because I don't get a lot of sleep sometimes, between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. is usually when we have most of our fires. That's usually when it seems to pop up most. Usually if you have your door closed and you do have a fire out, the breathable air will stay at about 18% longer. So it stays longer at 18% while you're in there, and you'll be able to function, move around, open windows. If you don't have that door closed, then you're going to be in a more of a tough spot. Close your door when you leave your house. If you do leave your house, and I'm hoping everybody can get out, make sure to close that door behind you. The fire will build the more air it gets from the outside. So if you can close your door, what that does, it allows us to save more of your property inside, and it also allows us to put that fire out quicker. The smaller it is, the faster we can get to it and put it out. And plan your escape, especially if you have children. I know I did with my kids. I had a meeting place outside. They knew where we were going to meet. They didn't question it. So if you have it to where they know they're going to meet you and you don't show up, then they can pass that information on to the firefighters. So it works out really well that way. And it also makes you makes you feel better when you can walk out and see that they're there. I am going to try to switch over now to another graph and see if this one shows up. Can you guys see a different one now that shows the District 1, District 2?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is Power BI. This is a program that downtown came up with, which is very good for us out here on being able to provide you with the number of alarms inside your district. We've had 16 fire alarms in the district. Now, that doesn't mean that they're house fires. We actually have had no structure fires of significance other than maybe a shed, but we haven't had any home fires or building fires in the district for March. Medical alarms, we've ran 378 in District 2. We've had 79 service alarms, 118 other alarms, and then so it's a total of 591. I'm gonna switch over and see if it works. There you go. This kind of gives you a description for what everything would be. Our service alarms are just going to be people in distress, people who may have fallen in their home, can't get up, so we go to them. Water problems, smoke problems, animal problems that if they're in danger, and mainly just mostly general public assistance. If you look over to the right of that, on other alarms, you're looking at any kind of chemical alarms, hazmats, explosion calls, overheating, false alarms on systems alarms, or due to anything due to severe weather, excuse me. So that's our call type. I can give you some statistics. I don't know if I think these got sent in, but I ain't gonna lie, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get them up on the screen, but I can talk to you about them. And what they are is gonna be what total citywide house fires and stuff that we did have. A total of 23 were investigated by investigators. 13 of them were accidental, 6 of them were incendiary, so intentional, and 4 of them were undetermined. And that's pretty much the gist of the calls or fires in the city. I can show you a few other things if you would like. By clicking over, this gives me the ability, and it's there's a lot of colors, and it takes a while to get used to it, and it's taken me a while, and I'm still not perfect with it. But this allows me to see the number of calls different stations will make in different districts. We are spread wide as a city. We take up a lot of land mass, so we do have to send units from one area in the district over to the other side of the district. So this technology here allows me to see what units from what part of the town are coming to help us, which in the long run, it's going to allow us to be able to see where we need new stations or more units. So in the long run, this is going to help the fire department and the city to find out where we need to provide better service for the citizens. Gives us the amount of calls per station. Like here, if you look at the fire FO1 or FO1 over to the left, you can see that station 1 ran 320 calls in the month of March. And if you come over to station 9, which is on Edgemoor, we ran a total of 235 total calls for the area. So this technology has helped us a ton. We are getting some analytics software that's going to be coming in. This software is going to be able to give us up-to-date, month-to-month information, which is also going to assist us to know where we're not serving the best, or we're not providing the best service. And I don't know if that's really not the best word for it, but what we could do better for the citizens would probably be the best word for it. And that is about all I have for you, unless you have any questions for me.
I'll just jump in. I had the privilege to see this a couple of weeks ago. We were shared with council, and I just think it's fantastic, and it gives it in a different way. I'm a numbers person, so I really like it, and an opportunity, like you said, to see where we're doing really well and some opportunities to do better. The other thing I just wanted to mention to y'all is I joined the Citizen Fire Academy. I tried last year for the Citizen Fire Academy and the Police Academy. The Police Academy, I don't think, started back out, but the Fire Academy did. So last week was my first session, and I'll be there again tomorrow night. So I'll keep giving y'all updates, but I think it's just going to be a fascinating experience. I did Fire Ops 101 back in 2019. And so just glad to be a part of this process and learn not only more from the fire department, but the other residents and citizens who are in the class. So more details to come.
Was that down at the training grounds?
It was, yeah.
What was your most favorite thing from that?
From Fire Ops or from last week? From Fire Ops, my favorite thing was going in the burning building. I really did. It's kind of scared me a little bit, but I was second on the hose, so I really liked that. I was an epic failure in search and rescue. I did not save the baby doll, and I'm sorry, but yeah. Most of all, it was just a really good way for us to learn more about how our firefighters every day fight so hard to make sure that we have high quality of life and great service to our community. So really enlightening. And I was so sore the next day that I couldn't pick up my toothbrush to brush my teeth. So I learned a lot.
I appreciate you doing it. It is a fun experience.
Absolutely. Any questions?
Not a question, but a comment. I agree with Becky. I really appreciate the data, because what doesn't get measured, there we can't take any action on. So it was really nice to see the different stations in the coverage area, so that when potentially budget decisions are being made or anything other, there's actually some data to decide where we need to, align resources. So from a transparency perspective, I really appreciate them implementing things like that, so we can see actual data, then instead of, well, we really need all of this because we just really need it. I really appreciate seeing data like that too.
Great point.
All
All
right.
right.
Well-
No other questions. Well, thank you for being here this evening, and thank you for your service to our great city, and stay safe.
All right, thank you, and thank you for your
Thank you.
time.
Take care. Community police report.
Hello, I'm John Meyer.
Hi, John.
I'm on 38 beat, and I have very little of my beat that crosses into District 2. So some of this might come a little bit from District 1, but a large chunk of Patrol East is in District 2. I will play along. My favorite thing about the city.
Thank you.
Reminded today, I've got a former coworker. I was a state trooper for 3 years and switched over, and one of my trooper classmates is from Minnesota and moved back there and lives near St. Paul. And apparently they had another officer involved shooting, and the cities are losing their mind again. I am appreciative of our city. We have the Ministerial League, and we have what people refer to as the God Squad, people that really help us kind of move slower so that we can gather information and organize it and then get it out to the city so people can understand what's going on. Sometimes it's better than others, but just as everybody saw a few weeks ago, we had an incident, and the next day there was video and audio and everything was released so everybody could see what happened for themselves. But I'm just glad that our city takes a little bit of time to react instead of just running out as soon as they hear the news. So I'm very appreciative of that.
Thank you.
So a couple things have been going on at Patrol East. We went out to Hilltop and helped the Dear Neighbor with an Easter event. They had it organized by family, by time. They had different lanes for the kids. It was very well organized. Worked great. We had beautiful weather. It was just last weekend on April 3rd. That was a lot of fun being out with the kids. I volunteered to go hang out with them for a bit on my Saturday. This last weekend, we had some more, I guess, excitement, you could call it. We have a new motorcycle gang in town. I don't know if anybody saw any of that or heard any of it, but they're called the Mongols, like Genghis Khan. That's actually on their logo, but they opened their first Kansas chapter, and I don't know, 500 or more of them came to Wichita, which, there were no major incidents. They spilled actually a decent amount of money into the city based on what we could track with hotel rentals. They're here for a couple of days, but we kept a very close eye on them. I got to work third shift Friday and Saturday night instead of my usual first shift on the weekdays. So that's why I'm out of uniform today. I got to take the day off to balance out my week from Saturday. Hopefully we don't hear much from them. As far as I know, we have about 5 or 6 local members. So they're kind of a baby group, but we'll continue to keep a close eye on them. As far as I know, none of them really drift over to the east side of town or live on the east side of town. So you might not see or hear from them. I don't know if we'll see them in Patrol East unless we go looking for them. Speaking of Patrol East, as far as I know, our station is still moving forward with whatever the plans are. We went out and did some surveys last month or the month before, I can't remember, around the neighborhood, just trying to get a feel for if people want us there. Because as some of you may know, we had plans to start building in the park just north of our current station, and people didn't like that. So they hit the pause button and looked at other sites, and now we're looking to jump on the old Southeast High School land there at the corner of Lincoln and Pinecrest, be the northwest corner of all of Southeast land. Right now it's just a big grass field. Seems like most of the folks that live over there would love to have the police station there. Hopefully we can keep moving forward with that. Becky, you might know more about that than I do.
I know exactly what you just said, that y'all have done a great job going and talking to the residents and seeing what they think about it moving there. And so far, it's been a very positive response.
Yeah, no one has said that it's been halted yet, so I will take that to mean that we're moving forward. We're about to finish up a clothing drive. We have some new people with our department. They're non-commissioned, and you have to forgive me, I cannot remember their official name, but they work down at our new central bureau that we're slowly developing, and essentially they serve kind of as our own personal DCF and caseworkers. They play a buffer between the police department and those other agencies. They get daily reports about what's going on with juveniles and our cases involving juveniles, the children in need of care, the abuse. They're kind of in the middle of all of that. Unfortunately, they don't have much budget wise. So we are doing a fundraiser for socks and shoes and underwear, some of the less common items that people actually donate, trying to get a bunch of new stuff so they can have things on hand to give to kids as soon as they come in or as soon as they go out to the house. They can give them a bag full of clothes. That's about to finish up here on the 16th of April. And then really recent news, there was a homicide on my beat over the weekend. And from what I can tell, that is an Airbnb incident, which will be a first, but not our first party that has gone south from one of those. So from my side of things, I'll be trying to figure out what resources we have. Obviously, a shooting qualifies as a nuisance under our new nuisance ordinance, but they're kind of a unique property. I don't know if they're considered residential or commercial or treated like a motel. So they're kind of entering some new ground, but we'll be addressing that as we move forward. And that's really kind of the state of my beat and Patrol East for now. Any questions?
How do we get the donations, or is it just you actually need socks, shoes, and underwear, or will you take money, or how do we do that?
We actually need those specific items. And you can drop them off Patrol East. There's a box there, and we're emptying that out daily or weekly as needed. Financially, it's tricky for us to take money. We kind of stay away from that as police officers because we go out and do some of this work, and I'll be lying if I said it didn't make me nervous to go out and collect money. Just, you don't want to even be in that realm of work to where anybody could accuse you of not turning it all in. So for the most part, we kind of stay away from financial donations for these types of events. We do have, Police Foundation and other things that handle that sort of thing. There are different types of organizations. So if you were interested in doing more of a financial donation, or people that want to do that, then I would say to contact Elena Kempf at Patrol East, and she could probably get you connected with our foundation or anybody else that is looking for that sort of thing. And she is I think she works directly for the captain, for Captain Kokendorfer. So she's sitting next to the folks answering the phone, or she will answer the phone. And Patrol East phone number is 350-3420.
And then sizes, sorry. Is it like toddlers or like teenagers or?
I think 8 years old is the top age. So babies up to 8.
Wonderful. Any other questions? Great question, Faith. Well, thank you for being here with us this evening, and thank you for spending some of your day off with us. We really appreciate your time.
No problem.
Thank you for your service, and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Park and Recreation. I didn't see anyone. Corey, did you, or get anything?
Yes, I'm right
Oh,
here.
hey, John, there you are. I didn't see you. Well, John, where are you?
I'm living in the outskirts of space right now, at least for this whole year of, 2020 and 21. But yeah, just a few things to kind of go over.
Yeah, John.
I'm sorry.
He just said that you were here. I didn't see you, but Corey's a little delayed. His response is delayed because of his internet connection. Let me change that.
Gotcha. A few events coming up out at Napster Park. We have our Shine Dance Fitness, which is a kind of a unique workout rooted in traditional jazz, ballet, and hip hop. We'll be offering that April 17th and also again May 15th at Napster Park at 10 a.m. And then also the following day, April 18th, we'll have a concert put on by the Wichita Children's Choir that will start at 3 p.m. And then we'll also be having a performance by the Youth Orchestra Symphony April 25th at 1 p.m. at Napster Park. So those are our events kind of coming up here at Napster in April. Chapin Park, we're going to have our Come Fly a Kite event May 1st from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And as courtesy of Wings of the Wind, they'll give professional flying demonstrations and hands-on flying instructions at that event. And then as we all are excited about pools and splash pads are about to open, you know, I think it's been a while since we've gone a whole year without opening them. So I think everyone's ready for that. I know I'm ready at Boston to see my new splash pad in order and see how it benefits that, you know, area. So I'm really excited about that. But if interested, if you're one of those people who attend a lot and you want to save some money, our season passes are $150 for a family of 4. Or $50 for individual passes. Also, a lot of people don't know this, that our pools are available for rentals as well, you know, for parties up to 50. They usually start around $175 plus like a $50 deposit. So that's just something, you know, with this COVID age, if you're trying to go to the pool and be a separate group and you don't feel comfortable yet, that's an option. So don't be afraid to take that route for family reunions if you want to stay outside. While I'm speaking about outside, Watson is full bloom. It's going. We have paddle boats going, kayaking, miniature golf, pony rides, train rides. You know, all the amenities are full blown. Actually, I went there a week ago and went kayaking, and I felt that for about 3 days. So if you're looking for a good workout, go kayaking for an hour. And you'll feel it for a good few days. So I do recommend trying out the new kayaks this year at Watson. And then, of course, we have our beautiful Botanica Gardens. And Marty Miller's always doing something new and great out there. So I encourage people, while everyone's in that staying out and about, go try, you know, taking a look at Botanica Gardens and see how beautiful we are over there. And then, of course, our new tennis center additions that are coming on. There's always that option if you want to stay outdoors. And then as far as our spring classes already began, but we always have during our sessions classes that start up in the middle or towards the end. So if you're still interested in trying to get children, yourself, or the seniors, of anyone of all ages, we have classes still opened up. You can get Evolve magazines at local rec centers. You can even get it online if you want the PDF one at the wichita.gov/park and rec. And then if you're out and about the grocery store, we do have them at Dillon's, libraries, and neighborhood city halls. And then a big one coming up, our summer camps are running. Looks like we're going to be running at a 50% capacity. So people wanting to sign up for summer camps need to be a little more urgent this year, just because we have cut our numbers back. The same thing that we did for last summer, we ran at 50% as well. But we do have our specialty camps here at Boston Rec Center. We have specialty theme camps where we offer Junior Chef Food Camp, Messy Science, Hogwarts Academy, Jedi, you name it. And then also, we also offer some UTech Inc. Classes for programming and coding. All the way from ages 6 to 17. Then we have our summer activity camps at Evergreen, Lynette Woodard, Colvin, and McAdams. And that's our camps that do have availability for some scholarships. So you'd want to contact those recreation centers if that's suits you. Then we have our summer discovery program that's done at Linwood, Orchard, and Edgemore. And all these camps, registration has opened and begun. So you can contact those local rec centers and they can get you set up and show you how to get going with that process. Just a last final thing. some of the park restrooms, since we are kind of short-staffed right now, won't be open at every park. So we do encourage people that if they do plan on attending or doing something out in the park, particularly group oriented, that you maybe call your local rec center or downtown Park and Rec Department at 268-4361, just to see if those bathrooms will be available for your group at that particular park. But with all that being said, that's all I have for tonight, unless there's any questions.
I'll just make one more comment. Just like I appoint to the district advisory boards, y'all, you know, I have library board and access board, and we also have a park board, and our representative from District 2, Eddie Fonestock, just won the Volunteer of the Year award. And so on Wednesday, I'm going to go to the Kansas Recreation and Park Association luncheon in Emporia to be able to help him celebrate. So really great accolades. He deserves it. He's been the chair and done a lot with the golf committee as well. So glad to go and help him celebrate. Thank you very much, John. We appreciate you being here tonight.
All right, no problem.
Safe
Thanks for
travels
having
back
me.
to Earth.
Yes, I'm coming back.
Awesome. Last but not least, Savannah.
Hello, everybody. So just as a reminder, all Wichita Public Library locations are open for in-person service. Customers are able to browse for materials, use public computers, and access our free Wi-Fi service. And we are asking customers to wear a mask and practice social distancing. We've also removed some of our lounge furniture just to prevent gatherings. But if you are looking for updates on what's going on a day that you want to visit, you'll just go to our website, which is wichitalibrary.org. We're also going to have a lot of great virtual programming in April. You can visit our website to register for those also. Tomorrow, I will be hosting a Navigating Medicare Online program via Zoom. And during that program, people can discover what you're able to do on the Medicare website. And we have partnered with Central Plains Area Agency on Aging, and they're going to take you through the steps for enrolling, making changes, and other features available on the website. Each month, we also offer a Tuesday Topics program in partnership with the League of Women Voters Wichita Metro. And those programs provide conversations from two sides of a current event topic. This month on Tuesday, April 27th, from noon to 1 p.m. via Zoom, we'll be discussing police reform. So recent events have caused protesters throughout the country to call for defunding the police. And so they're just going to be talking about what type of changes are being sought. Is defunding the answer? What would it mean to change the funding structure of the police department? And would that result in better policing? So anyone can join us for a candid conversation panel with Dr. Michael Berzer, who's a professor in WSU's School of Criminal Justice, Gwen Grant, who's the president and CEO of the Urban League of Greater Kansas City, and then Wanda Parker Givens, who's the Deputy Chief of Police of the Wichita Police Department. And then we have other programs this month that you'll want to check out on our website. And then finally, for high school and college students that are taking tests this year, we just want to remind them that the library has several really great physical and digital resources available for free with a library card. So at the library, students can borrow exam prep books, and then online we provide free access to Learning Express, which is a database that provides access to ACT, SAT, PSAT, and lots of different college admissions practice, among many other tools. So you'll just want to visit the research tools page on the library's website to learn more about that. Any questions for me?
I don't hear any, but thank you, Savannah, for being here with us. And we're looking forward to hopefully coming back to see you for our DAB meetings in the future.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Bye-bye. All right, we're going to keep moving right along. So the next item that we have under new business is PUD 2021-0002. And I think we have Matt Williams with us here this evening. Is that correct, Matt?
That's right.
All right,
let me
Matt.
let me go ahead and share my screen real quick.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is kind of a little bit more complicated of a development than we're used to. So we do have the applicant here if you have any questions about it.
Okay.
But this is PUD 2021 number 2. The applicant is requesting a zone change from single family and limited commercial to a planned unit development to create the Buffalo Grove planned unit development. The site is 19.32 acres and is located on the northeast corner of Pawnee and 127th Street East. The purpose of the PUD is to create a custom zoning classification that's going to permit a mixture of residential development. The PUD provides flexibility compared to normal zoning and allows the development to have various setbacks. The intent is to create a unique medium density development surrounding a green space. The PUD drawing shows the extent of the development will be about 38 residential lots and several reserves. 28 of the proposed lots are going to have alley access on the rear of the property with garage access to the alley. These 28 lots make up the center of the development, with the remaining 10 non-alley properties along the east and west extents of the development. The conceptual site plan, which is what we have pulled up on the screen right now, illustrates that the lots with alleys have 4 dwelling units per lot, and the non-alley lots have 2 dwelling units. The streets and alley network are also going to double as utility corridors. The PUD states that the development density can be up to 14.5 dwelling units per acre. Although the PUD permits that amount of density, the conceptual site plan that we're looking at right now actually only has 6.83 dwelling units per acre. The developer also recently got their plat approved for this property, and the plat corresponds with this conceptual site plan. And so there's only 38 lots. And if all of them were developed with 4 units per lot, that would be about 7.8 dwelling units per acre. So much less than is what's going to be allowed. The PUD is also going to permit a reduction in the setbacks. The proposed setbacks are going to vary depending on the type of lot. So for example, in the center where the lots have 4 dwelling units per lot, the ones that are alley abutting, they're going to have 5-foot setbacks in the front and on the sides, and then a 2-foot setback on the rear. And that rear is going to be abutting the alleyway. And the point for having such a small setback there is that they're hoping that people are not going to be parking in the alley. All of those lots are going to have garages with their required parking in it. And so they want people to be parking in their garages, and they don't want space for people to be parking in the alley so that, a trash truck or whatnot could go up and down there. The setbacks for the 2-unit lots that are non-alley lots are going to be 20-foot front setbacks, 5 feet side setbacks, and then a 10-foot rear setback. And then if any lot abuts reserve, on the side that it abuts the reserve, there's only going to be a 5-foot setback. The PUD also contains provisions for architectural controls, landscaping, lighting, screening, parking, and signage. The screening and landscaping buffering is going to be required along the east and the north property lines. The applicant intends to meet that requirement through landscaping. I said each dwelling unit shall have a minimum of 2 off-street parking spaces. The PUD states that on-street parking areas shall be provided throughout the site in order to accommodate visitor parking. And then, if we look at the zoning around there, property to the north of this site is zoned single family, and it's currently undeveloped agricultural land. Property to the east is zoned single family and is developed as a golf course. Property across the street to the south is zoned limited commercial and SF20, and it's developed as agricultural land. And then property to the west across the street is zoned TF3 2-family, single family, and limited commercial. And it looks like the 2-family land is developed with duplexes, and then the rest is undeveloped. The comprehensive plan includes this. Well, the future growth concept map shows this as an area that it's appropriate for residential. So this definitely corresponds with that. And then based on the site being majority zoned at limited commercial right now, with the rest being single family, we really feel like this is going to be a reduction in the use that the site could have if it were developed as limited commercial. And so staff is recommending approval subject to the provisions in the PUD. So I know that's a lot. I'd be happy to answer any questions about it.
Any questions?
I've got a question and a comment.
Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
I really like this plat. This is an interesting plat. My question, that's my comment. My question of you, and it doesn't pertain to the land use, I'm just curious, are these to be rentals or owner occupied units?
I'm going to let the developer answer that. Brian is on the line. Brian, what's your answer?
Yeah, I can answer that now. Brian Lindeback, MKEC Engineering, on behalf of the owner and applicant. My address is 411 Northwood Road. Hello, Tim. Mr. Johnson. Yes, these are intended to be rental units. We've set it up so that in the future, if someone wanted to sell off some of them we've got that ability to do that. But the intention is to hold them all together as one product, sort of like an apartment complex might be. The differences, we have a lot of green space and just a lot different kind of product. We've been doing some alley developments here in the local area, and we think it's a trend that we're excited to do these alley developments, and I think it's a trend that you'll see will probably prove to be popular. It's very popular in other parts of the country. This is just probably the first one to Wichita here. But I might just add a couple more details to help you guys get a feel for how this functions. The fourplexes that you'll have in the alleys, we've got very short driveways, so it precludes people from parking in the alley just by virtue of their driveway so short. That's designed twofold. We don't want people storing a whole lot of stuff in their garages. I know that's a little tough to enforce that. So we want it to be set up so that they're pretty much forced, if they have a car, which most people do, if they park in their garage, which most people do, we'll try to prohibit a lot of parking on street elsewhere. The parking on street is going to be set up for visitors and delivery trucks and things of that nature. But we really hope this is going to be a nice little asset to the area, as opposed to, I'm not going to say that our product's better than others in the area, but we do believe this will have a much more aesthetically pleasing multifamily development than others in the near vicinity. So we're excited to bring this on and try out a different product.
And Brian, you answered my question before I could ask it. I wondered if there was another concept like this in the city, which I've seen another concept like this in a city that I visited. It was really unique and seemed just something different. So thank you for bringing that to our attention, that this could be the first.
Yeah, first new alley development. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's certainly some old ones in the older
absolutely.
part of town.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yep.
This may not be a question for this development, but with it being so close to the high school, and I anticipate the multifamily development location because of its being so close to the high school, what are we doing to be, because the high school is like kitty corner across from it, right?
It is south about a half mile, and it's on the west side of 127th.
So is there gonna be, are we gonna take into account, is it the city? I'm not sure how we're gonna, but all of the walk, it'll be the only, besides that housing development, any walking of students and all of that. Is that part of this? Is that a different discussion? If it's
I could speak.
multifamily, that's quite a few families is all I'm asking.
I could speak to that a little bit. I do know, and Becky probably could echo this, there has been a lot of design ideas and designs about how to improve this area's traffic flow. Part of that, though, is as the place develops, it'll warrant those improvements to be made. So this is just one next step in warranting some of those improvements to be made. But I know there's been a lot of thoughts. I've even seen a roundabout design at this intersection. So yeah, that'll be a city project that'll come along probably behind this project.
I meant like sidewalks in this development though.
We have sidewalks in our development that we're building, but we're not building the ones for arterial streets because those will come along when the roads get widened and rebuilt here.
Great question, Faith, and I always appreciate you being such a good thinker. And if Brian is accurate, this is on our monthly agenda with Public Works. I have a monthly meeting with our city engineer and director of Parks and Public Works, and 127th and Pawnee is a standing agenda item. We have, because of COVID and kiddos not being in school, every month we just go, okay, maybe next month, okay, maybe next month. And if you were on DAB, Sam, I think you'll probably vividly remember this very robust roundabout discussion that we had and approved it. And then now we've kind of just put everything on hold because we want to be able to have accurate traffic counts and to be able to look at the situation when it's the real scenario of what it's going to be with traffic. So more to come, I guess, is the question, but something that we're really monitoring closely, especially when kiddos are full back in school. Any other questions? Any comments for Matt? Anything you want to hear more about regarding this case?
This is Chris. I just have a question. To the south of that, on the map, it shows Sedgwick County. What is that area?
That is unincorporated Sedgwick County. It's presumably it may be annexed someday, but right now it's just unincorporated into the city.
It's the county.
Yep.
Becky, when the board is done, I have a question.
Okay, thank you, Bruce, for letting me know. I appreciate that. Any other discussion from the district advisory board members? All right.
Becky, did you have any comments or concerns from the
Nope,
citizens?
and I made myself a note. I was going to make that when we got, I have heard nothing. I've heard no comments, questions, anything from any of the public. And Matt, remind me, when does this go to MAPC, the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission?
This just went last Thursday and it was approved. Yeah.
Okay.
I have one more quick question, Becky.
Sure, Tim, of course.
And it's not rhetorical, and it's probably 40,000 feet high, but how does Wichita Transit fit into this particular intersection? I know we're way out on the periphery of the city, but we've also got a large high school and a good number of residential areas, and now another one about to develop. And not everybody in high school can drive to school. Not everybody in high school, given the vast territories that these cover, are going to be taking the school transportation system. I'm wondering if there have been any conversations or thoughts about how Wichita Transit fits into this this part of town.
Thank you. That's a great question. And we actually had a meeting, gosh, Corey, you were there. It was probably in 2019 when Southeast was really opening up and gearing up. The City of Wichita Transit Department does have a partnership with USG 259. So we actually, in helping to generate the next generation of transit users, we actually help kiddos get to school through transit. So some of our kids in USD 259 take city transit as their transportation method to be able to get to school. And Mike Tan was involved in those conversations. And then also when we were discussing whether or not to have the roundabout, here, one of the most important questions that we had and made sure was, could a city transit bus be able to navigate through that roundabout? And we found out that indeed it could. And so transit's also been involved when we're looking at this area and making sure that we're moving people quickly and efficiently, but also most importantly, safely. Great question. So thank you.
Becky, this is Brian Lindback. I might just add that I believe it's Route 22 does go by this location on Pawnee and 127th. And so that if you want to get downtown, you can get to and from downtown from here.
Great. Thank you, Brian. If no other questions or concerns from the DAB, then we'll go out to the community. And I know, Bruce, you wanted to make a comment. And just, Bruce, for the record, could you make sure you state your full name and then also your address?
Yes, Bruce
Thank you.
Gass, Gass, 28 Maverick Drive, Wichita, Kansas. First of all, it's a thrill to have an actual applicant have a representative at one of these discussions. So I want to thank the applicant for doing that. Second of all, did I hear correctly that the public has not been notified about this yet? So there's no feedback?
I think, Matt, you can address this. The public has been notified, but the question was asked, Bruce, if I had received any feedback, and Corey and I have not. Corey didn't respond, but I know he's having problems with his internet, but I have not had any community members reach out to me. And Matt, you can address that more.
Yeah, this has definitely been notified to the public through letters and signage and all our usual tactics. This was not my case, so I can't speak for Philip, whose case this is, but I have not heard any feedback from the public. Brian, I know you were at Planning Commission. Did anybody speak at Planning Commission?
Yes, I can provide some information there. There were some email correspondences sent to the planning department from 4 different folks. Most of the folks were not in support of it because they didn't want more multifamily in the area. However, upon our presentation, I explained to them about how we were downzoning this property. One of the members actually was in favor of what we were doing as opposed to if we left the conditions as they are, because this property is zoned limited commercial. I think I did the math. You could have somewhere upwards of 620 dwelling units on that part. So this is a significant reduction in what would be normally allowed on the property by right presently. So we think this will fit better with the character of the neighborhood. So, but yeah, 4 people spoke up, and 1 person has changed their mind, I think, a little bit on after having seen the presentation.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I just wanted to say that my favorite part of Wichita right now is on one of our grain elevators, there's a huge mural.
Yep.
I just love that artwork. I understand a married couple did that. And I wish they all had something like that on them. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Great point. Thank you, Bruce. Bringing it back, any other questions, discussion from the District Advisory Board members?
Since I live in Sierra Hills, just straight north of that, I can confirm that our homeowners association did also do a little extra work to try to let folks in our neighborhood know. So Brian, thank you for that accounting of the meeting. I was interested myself to learn what transpired last week since I wasn't able to make it. But I am satisfied with this presentation and the explanation that it is being downzoned from. The request would have it downzoned from limited commercial.
Thank you for those comments, Tyler. And at any time, I'd entertain a motion if someone feels compelled to move in a direction.
I'd like to make a motion to move forward with it.
Thank you, Nazir. Do we have a second?
I will second.
Thank you very much, Tim. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? All right, the motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Brian and Matt, for being here with us this evening. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So for the last new business agenda item that we have is our proposed City Council ethics policy. And Corey, I think I'm going to turn it over to you. There's a PowerPoint and with some comments, and then we'll navigate through some questions.
Yes.
There you go. Yeah.
So hopefully I don't freeze up. My role in this presentation is, as I said in an email, really just to capture your feedback. You were sent the link to the policy, and I'm going to play a video, Facebook, and in the meeting here. But the intention is that if you have questions, we'll record those, but I will not be in a position to be able to answer those questions for you. So as long as we're on the same page with that. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, you'd think after a year I'd learn this. Corey, you froze for just a second. So just so y'all know that all of the district advisory boards have had the same presentation and an opportunity to provide comment. And Corey's going to take copious notes. All of those notes are going to be combined and shared with the city council and the mayor. We will workshop this one more time on April 27th. And then right now it's proposed that it'll go to city council on May 4th. So thank you, Corey.
The City Council is dedicated to adopting a transparent ethics policy to best establish a guide for ethical behavior and effective governance. The Council has been working with community partners and the National League of Cities to help draft the strongest policy possible. The goal of the policy is to promote public confidence in elected and appointed leaders by establishing a consistent and transparent ethical standard of conduct and assist leaders with ethical decision-making. The policy would apply to both elected leaders and appointed boards, including district advisory boards. The policy includes guidelines for avoiding conflicts of interest, regulations on the receipts of gifts, standards to encourage impartial decision-making, establishment of an independent ethics advisory board, requirements for ethics training, whistleblower protection guidelines, and more. After gathering public feedback, the policy will go back to council to be adopted in May. The full draft policy can be read on wichita.gov. The council wants your input on the proposed ethics policy. You can provide input at district advisory board meetings, by sharing your thoughts via the city's social media, or by emailing council members. Contact information for each of them can be found on wichita.gov. Please weigh in and help us make the city council ethics policy the best it can be.
I will say that I did receive a few questions from some DAB members. Thank you for that. So I want to share the questions I received, and I was able to look up some answers to those questions. So one question I received a couple of times, to form the ethics board. Frozen, aren't I? Okay. So the response to that question, so the methodology for selecting members of the ethics board was drawn from the Fort Worth, Texas ethics policy. Additionally, those boards
Oh, Corey, you're frozen again.
boards were selected. So the pool was selected. Am I back?
You're back. Yeah. We're going to hope we can get through this.
How painful. Okay. So I was saying, the advisory boards that the ethics board will be drawn from, those boards were chosen due to the scope of their responsibilities and the additional qualifications for board members. But I was told that the advisory board members is still being. I froze again. Okay, I'm just gonna put this in the chat. Okay, I'm gonna try this again. The short answer to that question, though, is that the methodology for choosing the ethics advisory board members is still being discussed. I don't know what the deal is tonight, folks. Should I keep trying?
So Corey, I think, and this is just my recommendation, and I'm happy to have other folks chime in, but you put it here, and I think we can read this. I think the most important part, and thank you for putting that there, so in case you freeze again, but if maybe we want to, unless anybody has any objections, maybe just proceed to the questions that we're going to ask the district advisory board members and let them give their feedback, and then people can, see what your response was to the questions that were sent in, if that sounds okay.
Yeah, that's fine with me. I'll put those questions at the end of the PowerPoint back up.
So I'm just going to make a couple quick comments. As you can see, these are very open-ended questions intentionally. We wanted to hopefully get some good feedback and let people share their thoughts and their comments. And then I'm probably not going to weigh in unless there's a really specific question that somebody has. I'm just going to keep myself on mute, and I'm going to be taking notes, as I know Corey is, because I really advocated for this part of this process, is to have the district advisory boards be able to weigh in, because I know y'all are really good thinkers and you're really invested in our community, and also you would fall under the ethics policy as well. So really want to hear your thoughts and suggestions and comments. So Corey, maybe we can just have some robust discussion, and if you can just navigate us through the questions when you feel it's appropriate to move on to the next time, that would be great. Thanks.
All right. So what would you expect to see or hear in the community that would suggest mayor and city council and appointed boards are operating ethically?
I don't necessarily think it's something I would expect to see. It would be what I didn't see. I think there's a lot of trust that's been lost. And because of that trust, there's a lot of that mistrust is there. So there's a lot of people paying really close attention and picking at every decision, and every time someone does something now, there's a lot of extra attention, where before we took what people said at face value. And now, because of that, a lot of people have just lost that faith and trust in their council and in their mayor. And so, because there was some impropriety, or it looked like someone was behaving without ethics, you see all of this has blown up. So I would say I would expect to not see all of that, and people would have a lot more faith and trust in their city council to be representing them, and you wouldn't see so much like everyone under the microscope all the time, including the media.
I would say for me, one of the things I would expect is full transparency. So I think really when it comes to spending, to associations, to contracts, and how are they associated with any bidding process. So I think just full transparency in every aspect of the jobs that are done, so that if people have questions or that it's put out there, the bid went out and these are the companies and these are the associations or not associations, or if someone had maybe a conflict of interest that they recuse themselves. So I just think transparency in all aspects is what I would expect to see.
I have a comment about what they're calling friends. I think Wichita's a big, small town. I think part of the council's job is to be out and about in the community, and you can't hardly turn around without bumping into somebody you could consider a friend. So I think that gets some really bad press. I don't really have an answer. I guess it's just more of a statement that and I'm in business. I have relationships with people in the city and all over that work for the city, in the city. And I just think that's a really tough play in Wichita with the whole big, small town thing, I don't know what anybody else's opinion is on it, but it's kind of distasteful in a way when everybody's supposed to be working together with the council and they're supposed to be out and about in the community. And then all of a sudden there's bad press about them doing what they're supposed to be doing.
I agree with Steve. Friends can be servant as well, and there's nothing wrong with that. But of course, there has to be boundaries somewhat.
Other comments on this item or questions?
Yeah, I would add to number one. I think something the city could do would be, I know it's one more thing to accumulate and publicize, but what are those gifts or meals or whatever that people have received? And I think if you start that ledger and just showing that what happened here and there, and you start documenting it, it gets rid of some of that distrust that was mentioned. And then I'd also echo the two gentlemen before me, Steve and Nazir, that the difference between a friend and an associate, a business associate in the city, is sometimes a very blurred line. So it makes it tough, for elected officials to become knowledgeable in topics and get to know the details they need without potentially having a meal or an event that they're at that potentially gives an appearance that they're favoring someone or not. So, and then I would also add that I have a question. The policy mentions if you're requesting someone's attendance at something, it doesn't specify how that has to go. So, if that request was made through a text message, that's going to have the appearance of more of a friendly acquaintanceship or request than a formal request. And so again, it's sometimes bureaucracy bogging down stuff like this because of a few bad apples, but those are my comments.
Thank you. Any others on this first one? What would increase your trust the council and appointed boards are acting with high ethical standards?
I'll chime in here. I would just say acknowledge that public officials are undergoing periodic training, whether I'm not sure if that would be an annual thing or every 2 years, but having knowledge that that's happening and that it's being well publicized out in the community, I think would address this.
I 100% agree. Board development is really critical, and that transparency that the board is working towards that would go a long way.
Other thoughts on this one? Okay, how would you define a friend in in relation to council relationships that may impact their decision on a vote.
I guess I'm not sure exactly why the word friend is even in there. I don't think it has to be a friend. You know, acquaintance, you don't know what, you know, somebody wants something for something, and I don't think the word friend necessarily is the word we're even looking for.
Well, it looks like the way they define it here is any individual that has a close connection. So I don't necessarily think it has to be a friend. It's just any kind of social interaction. So that could be a neighbor or a person that you work with, or, you know, those kind of relationships. But I agree, friend is kind of misleading.
Well, it's one of those things like you can't legislate morals. You know, you're either electing ethical leaders or you're not. You know, you can put as much stuff in writing as you want, and if you're not ethical, you're not going to pay attention anyway. And there again, like I say, the blurred lines, and especially in Wichita, is really tough. I think it's tough for the council.
Well, I think they have an ethics policy and have it posted so the vendors and everybody knows what the policy is. Then, you know, the transparency is the big thing, but if you have a posted policy, I think that helps.
Yeah, but a policy without any teeth is just a piece of paper. And I think the accountability comes from something happening if you violate that policy. Because a lot of policies are just statements on a website and nothing happens if you violate them.
On the question about defining friend, I work in the federal government, our legislative branch, and I have to undergo ethics training periodically. And not so much with this question in terms of impacting decisions or votes. I have to think about that a lot in terms of gifts, people wanting to buy my lunch or buy a ticket for me to take me to a game. This is kind of the standard that I've set in my now 10-year career working for the federal government. And those are people that I have known before I took this job, this role that I have, to where I would feel very confident defending myself before the U.S. Senate Ethics Committee, that it was okay for me to have my friend Kirby buy my meal, for example, because my relationship with him stretched long before I took this job with the U.S. Senate. He's not trying to influence me so that I can influence my boss on his behalf. So that's kind of how I have myself defined friendship with my career these past 10 years.
Other comments on this one? Okay, to the next one. Do you think council should be allowed to accept food and drink, for example, dinner at a nonprofit event they're speaking at, or having business lunches paid for?
Honestly, this is a tricky one, and I don't want to speak for any city council person, but I see how busy Becky is, and I can't imagine all of the things that they get invited to. So if they're invited to 15 events, and does that like blow out of the water everything that their, you know, amount is? Or does that mean that the 11th one, she has to pay it out of her pocket? Or this one kind of, I'd struggle with this one, because how do we decide where the line is? Is it she got invited, but it's from someone she doesn't know? But if she did get invited by someone she knows, I feel like that needs to be a lot more clear because this is where the friend comes in. What if it's a nonprofit? Or what if it's somebody that's a developer? Or what if it's her neighbor that owns a nonprofit? That's very muddy, and I think that opens a lot of room for interpretation.
I don't think paying for dinner is a problem. I mean, we're all having lunch, having dinner. I paid for you, you paid for me once. It's no big deal. But paying for someone's round of golf $1,000 or so, like happened a few years back, I think that's a different story. But a cup of coffee or lunch or so, that's just. I mean, you're not gonna buy someone for buying them lunch, in my opinion.
I believe they should be able to accept those, which then would have to make the amount limitations that were in the proposed policy need adjusted, because you know, to the point of if you go to 2 lunches, you're at that max amount of, you know, places you can go or speak or accept a invitation to, then that, you know, limits their ability to do their job. So I think overall, it's important to make sure this policy creates accountability, but doesn't hamstring their role either.
I have a couple thoughts. One, I would want to know, does food and drink, does that include alcohol? And they're getting alcohol paid for at whatever they're at. Secondly is, as I read through the policy and the limits are on there, is it maybe better to say that the limits are based per company or individual than an overall limit? And this kind of comes back to the transparency, but if you have a company or a business that's taking out a council member every week, you know, is there some ethical concerns there? Because I don't know, and I have no idea, but is that just a thought of it's more person-based, business-based per diem than an overall per diem?
Can you gold star Nancy's idea? I love that. That's genius.
I think food and drink is the most difficult aspect of this when it comes to some kind of gift for elected officials, as it is for appointed officials too, because of the frequency in which it can occur. It could conceivably occur 3-4 times a day, with 3 or 4 different parties who are weighing in on the same issue, even from 3 or 4 different perspectives. I have much less of an issue with meals and beverages than I do with tickets and trips and rooms and material items. But I don't know what kind of parameters to put on the food and drinks. But I've been in government for over 30 years, and it's a tough one to manage on the receiving end, at least, unless you just say, I'm not accepting anything. I'm not the cup of coffee and not the sirloin steak either.
You know, I've been on both ends of this as a vendor and a vendee, and I think it's really some of the easiest ones I've worked with are people that have had an absolute, well, I'm sorry, I just can't do that. We can go and pay our own way, and it's pretty simple to do business with those kind of people. I think that's, I don't know, it's kind of on the far side, but there's a definite line, easy to follow.
I said I wouldn't weigh in, but I just have to say one thing. And Faith, I think you probably can confirm this for me. I am proud to say that since January 8th of 2019, the day that I was appointed, the only person who's bought me anything but a free glass of ice water is my husband. And I started that policy long before we even talked about having an ethic policy. And Sam, I just want to echo that it's made it really easy for me that I just have a zero policy of none. So it just doesn't ever come up for me. So I thank you for mentioning that. And it's something that I'm quite proud of. And I tell people I sleep very well at night because of it.
You know, Becky, that's exactly what I expected out of you.
Becky, will the city reimburse your meals and drinks, non-alcohol, when you have business meetings?
I've never asked them to, and I wouldn't. I think that, that's something that but I will say, I also understand that I have a privilege in my life where I can afford to do that. And not all council members or elected officials could. So I'm extremely cognizant of that. And that's why, we want to have this discussion. I think the tricky part is, I'll give an example. Last year, 2019, before COVID, or maybe it was even 20 before COVID really kicked off, I was asked to present at the Mental Health Association of South Central Kansas, their annual gala, and I spoke. And so I was, the question was, should I buy my ticket to attend or give the meal that everyone else was given? And as someone who has the luxury of having, this job, and I'm married to a partner who has a job, but if every time that happened, then I couldn't go to things, and then I couldn't represent and hear community members. So it is really, it gets gray. I mean, it's easy for me to go to Homegrown with Faith and say we're buying our own. It's harder when it's a banquet or an event where you're being asked to maybe speak and represent the community and also the city council. So as somebody said before, it's really challenging, and I couldn't agree more. So I love hearing this discussion. And I said I wouldn't speak, and I'm sorry, but I just wanted to make that one comment. So I'll go back to mute, I promise.
Any other feedback on this point?
I think that's a great idea, but I don't know that we could necessarily get everyone to adopt the integrity behind the no gift giving. I think Nancy's idea of documenting and measuring, almost like you would like a donor would for a nonprofit, measuring how often and who and the amounts, that kind of transparency would lend itself to, I know, Steve, you said, you can't legislate it, or you can't legislate morality, but that kind of transparency lends itself to, if everybody can see what you're doing all the time, you're much less likely to give somebody $1,000 golf trip if everybody can see what you're doing.
I'd like to play devil's advocate here and just say that, if you put something, I understand why Council Member Tuttle doesn't accept anything, and I completely understand that. But if you make a rule that says that, or you limit it too much, I think it's fair to ask, are you limiting who runs for these positions and who's willing to do that? Who's in a position to be able to do that and who's not? Just a comment.
Okay, are we ready to move to the next point? Should there be a penalty for abuse of the complaint process?
Can you clarify that? Is that for people making complaints?
Yeah, I'll jump in, Corey, just maybe to help out. But right now there is a clause that says like a whistleblower protection. So let's say that a community member or a staff member feels that something is inappropriate and they make a complaint, there will be absolute guarantee that nothing happens to them, no retaliation or anything such as that. But the question was brought up during our last workshop of what if community member X just is not a fan of council member Y, and they bring up multiple or even one complaint that is found to be mischievous, with ill intent, if you will. What then? What? I don't want to present any leading, but I wondered when I read this too if that made sense. But if a whistleblower falsely with ill intent, not oops, I thought I saw something and I just misinterpreted. But if somebody makes an accusation with ill intent? Should there be a penalty for abuse?
I'll just throw out that I imagine the city of Wichita or some of those have it's an ethics clause that they talk about if they file, I want to say false reports, a number of them. I look at more the broader community, and going back to some of the other points talked about is, I don't know what the penalty would be if it's a fine or whatnot. I hate to discourage citizens from taking proactive action, and I understand there's people that absolutely abuse it, but I guess I'd like to see what the penalties are, because I think if it's just fines, there's some citizens that, that it may not deter, but also it could really put them in a very, I don't want to say destitute position, but they wouldn't be able to afford it. So I don't want people to have to, so maybe it's just more what the penalties would be. I don't know, this one's hard.
Well, there's already penalties for staff. So if it's a citizen, I would think, is it anonymous? I mean, I didn't see anything in there that said that they are doing it anonymously. So if we have 5, the sky is falling on the same person and nothing is ever found, wouldn't that just be taken into account if by the 6th time or whatever the sky is falling? It's like, all right, buddy.
I guess maybe I read it wrong. The way I'm reading all of this is it was like an internal policy that wasn't, I guess it really didn't call out citizens and stuff making accusations or bringing up things. I see a lot about employees and officials, but I don't know if you can punish the citizens for saying anything. But if your intent is to have a penalty for the complaint process, then it's really not any whistleblower protection at all. It's the board, the new board, the ethics board that gets created all of a sudden becomes judge, jury, and determiner of everything. So really slippery slope if you are putting a penalty on a whistleblower process.
Something that Chris just said just made me think, if there is going to be abuse for penalties for abuse of the complaint process, those need to be clearly defined so that an ethics advisory board doesn't have to make that determination themselves of what constitutes it. It needs to be clearly defined from the outset so that everyone is aware and can use those guidelines to make that determination on the board.
I think also to elaborate, I think overall from the 40,000 foot view, to steal that from Tim from earlier, you have to be careful in this whole thing. I just want to say that you don't all of a sudden move your opportunity for corruption or abuse of position from the elected officials who were duly elected by the city and the citizens down to now all the power is within this ethics advisory board, who now you really have to scrutinize who these people are, who's picking them. It's pretty broad how they're getting selected. Because if they now not only get to decide if someone did something wrong, they get to decide if the person complaining is abusing their right to call out what they see. I think you've just shifted where the potential issues are from elected officials to appointed officials.
Yeah, I think Chris brings up a great point, and I'm not trying to be the negative guy on this, but I mean, it's like a lot of things. We seem to be a knee-jerk, reactionary society at times, and the pendulum swings from one side clear to the opposite. And to Chris's point, I mean, there's already things in place. There's already ways to, and he brings up a really good point, an elected official, and there's ways to remove elected officials. And now you're putting a bunch of power into appointed people. And how was that process handled? And it wasn't necessarily handled by the people. It seems like, I mean, there was some perception and reality of some things that happened that now has everybody really being way conservative maybe, or the pendulum has swung so far to the other side that it just seems like, I don't know how you structure this to then ever take care of every scenario, and to just pile more bureaucracy on top of 3 other piles of bureaucracy. I mean, again, to repeat myself, you're not gonna put a code of ethics out there and keep somebody that's unethical from being unethical. I think that's my 2 cents.
Corey, this is Bruce. When you're ready, I have a comment as a non-board member.
Okay, Bruce, let me ask these last 2 questions to Deb, and then we'll get your thoughts, okay?
Okay.
So let's move. Is this the right direction for the City Council's Code of Ethics?
I'll go first. I know I know it's not there and it's not perfect, and I know not everybody agrees with it, but the pendulum swung that far for a reason, and it's a knee-jerk reaction for a reason. And I think that there's a lot of people that don't trust governance right now, and I think this is an olive branch to try to regain some of that trust by providing some transparency and saying this is what we value in Wichita, because this is what people value. No one wants to say that we don't value integrity and ethics in Wichita, Kansas. I think everyone on this DAB would admit that this is part of Wichita's values. So I think this policy is an effort to say that this is what we value. Is it perfect? No. Is there a lot of work probably that needs to be done? Yes, but I think this is the closest thing I've seen to something that I would say as a DAB member that I would follow. Does it need a little more workshopping? Maybe, but I think it's the reaction came from a need to have something more than what we had.
I might echo that thought. Yet I might also caution against getting too deep in the weeds with the policy. Typically, a policy or an ordinance isn't something you can't change when you need to change it in the future. I think people tend to get all wrapped up with, this is the policy, we got to get it right now, because if we don't, we're out of luck. All right, not true. You can always change the policy. You can throw out an ordinance and replace it with another. I think this effort to look at ethics is timely because of what we've been through these past many months. I get that. I think it demonstrates a lot of good things and a commitment on behalf of the governing body to the citizens of Wichita. It's probably the right thing to do, but I'd be careful about getting too detailed and too prescriptive and then finding out it doesn't work very well. And now you got to walk it back and modify the policy. And the optics of doing that could be as bad as they are right now entering into a new ethics policy. At the end of the day, what's really got to demonstrate to the people of Wichita in the surrounding area isn't going to be the ethics policy and whether or not you have to use the stick in that policy. It's going to be the quality of the decisions that the governing body and other boards make, and the appearance of transparency and the appearance of decisions that are broadly reflective of the values and the wants and the needs of the community. That's where the trust is going to come in, is going to come back. It's going to be in the actual behavior rather than prescribing what is or is not ethical. Having said that, I'll swing back and say, yes, I think doing this now is a part of that larger exercise. And I would just ask governing body members to think about what it might look like if 2-3 years from now we have a code of ethics that we've got to change because it doesn't work, and what that ends up looking like optically in the community, because that can hurt you too.
Yeah, Tim, I would completely agree to the point that you can't get too far in the weeds. However, I spent 23 years in the military, and there's a saying that it's their rules. All they got to do is change them. And so if you create that persona as well, then you to your point, you've actually went backwards with trust. And so I think it's important to to clearly understand what it is they're trying to that we're trying to get through. And then I would also just add, to directly answer the question, I think the intent is definitely in the right direction. However, I would maybe challenge back that we all, I say we because this does apply to us, and I had to clarify that, but this does apply to us as well as DAB board members, and we all take an oath to defend and support the state's constitution. And so I'm going to guess 90% of this is covered by interpretation and upheld, and we're held accountable in those documents as well. So I think overall, I think this is probably redundant, but yeah, I understand the intent of where the city's trying to go with it. So.
Let me just say I appreciate that the NLC, the National League of Cities, was brought on board to try to help develop this, to address the situation that we have here in Wichita. I feel like out of any organization, they would have a pretty firm grasp on how to achieve those goals that we would set out. So I'm glad that Wichita looked for outside help to try to develop this. So I do think that's going in the right direction.
Is there anything else you think the Code of Ethics should include?
I know, and listening to the video and the discussion with the city council, and they talked about the challenge of social media and just how do you regulate something and how does that work out. So I know it's not necessarily, I know it's kind of in there, but whether it's guidance or truly understanding what that means, that we're not curtailing the council people or whoever in doing their jobs, but understanding what, Como and Cora, what they truly, I want to say truly mean, but the parameters around them. So I know that's, I'm sure, a continued discussion, but that was one area I thought about of how do you really regulate that, but then do it in a way that still allows people to do their job.
I think one other thing I would add is that this code of ethics should, for the appointed positions on boards and other things, I believe it should specify if you're acting in the intent of the city or in your, whether that's your civilian career or your personal life. You know, this is a pretty overarching document that is really going to restrict, I think, some people from doing other aspects of their life if this was held to the way it's currently written.
Any other comments from the DAB? All right, I think, Bruce, I think it's your turn.
Okay, thank you. Bruce Gass, 28 Maverick Drive. On the question, should there be a penalty for abuse of the complaint process? Just suppose you have a character that likes to put their face in the limelight, and let's suppose they bring off 3 or 4 false complaints. So at some point, we're going to have to trust the ethics board, which is going to be people like you and me, to use their good judgment. But suppose, let's say we censored that person, we stopped listening to them, and they find something legitimate. Well, then we shot ourselves in the foot. So I think we're going to have to, I recommend that just be left alone and we trust the good judgment of the ethics board. On the last question, I have to say, as a citizen, I have really, really graded when boards go into executive session and they don't explain why they're going into executive session. That just really bothers me. And so what I'd like to do is propose that we give the ethics committee the freedom to assign a person to attend any meeting, whether executive or not, as an observer. And thank you very much.
I appreciate that, Bruce, a great deal. And just to clarify, anytime that we do go into an executive session, we suspend the meeting temporarily, and we don't say what the actual issue is, but we state it's because it's either a legal case or it's either like a legal case, a pending litigation, or it's because it's a human resource issue where an employee could potentially, have their personal information disclosed. And so we don't say it's against, Becky Tuttle, or we have a lawsuit with whatever, but we always state the reason that we're going into executive session. And those are the 2 reasons why. So thank you.
I appreciate that. However, I believe I have seen some misuses of executive session in my time here in Wichita under the guise of privacy. And it would make me feel a lot better as a citizen if we had somebody that could observe that, but that would also be restrained by the legal implications and the privacy regulations. Thank you.
Oh, I have one other question. Maybe this is for Becky. When you're going into workshop for the next discussion, will it just be taking all of the feedback from all of the DABs, or will any of the DABs, like would D be there to represent? Or is it just you guys will be discussing when you workshop?
We just discussed, and that's a great question. Thank you. We just discussed this on Friday during agenda review. Right now, it's my understanding that all of the comments from the district advisory board members are going to be synthesized and then presented to us. I don't think a district advisory board member is going to presenting it to us. I think that it's going to come to us probably and like an actual paper document prior, so we can have a chance to be able to look at and review them. I don't know if the exact agenda for that workshop has been decided yet, but that was what I gathered from this feedback process. And then, each of our council members are soliciting feedback on our own. I know that, almost everywhere I'm going, any meeting I'm having, I'm asking people either informally or, sometimes formally at a meeting, what do you know about it? What are you hearing about it? What do you think about it? And so it'll be a chance for us to bring all those comments back. So thank you. Great question.
Well, I think that's everything on the agenda item, unless anyone else has any final comments or questions.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. As I said, Vice Mayor Johnson and I, and everybody was in agreement that we were probably the loudest voices saying that we really wanted the opportunity to go to district advisory boards, even though we knew it was going to slow the process down a bit. I felt that the information that we gathered would be rich and useful, and it has been. I took lots of notes. I can't wait to compare mine with Corey and then hear what other council members heard at their district advisory board meetings and their listening sessions. We also did a social media town hall where we allowed the community to provide input, just like we do for budget and for everything else. And some more information was gleaned there. So appreciate your time. I know that it took a little bit and is keeping you from your friends and family and other things this evening, but it's worth it. And this is a challenging process. It's not easy, but I think at the end it'll be worth it, and we'll have a product that we're all proud of. So thank you for being part of the process and for your service on the district advisory board. Unless anybody has anything else, I know this has been a fascinating evening and lots of great, robust discussion, but unless anybody has anything else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
I don't have anything. I second.
All those in favor, before I take the vote, just a quick reminder, the next meeting will be May 10th. Corey, I think we still have to be virtual one more time, right? Corey. Corey, you froze.
It's completely dependent on the library.
Okay, so
And
we'll
what they
keep you
are.
posted. The room that we meet at the Rockwell Branch Library is used for the how they decontaminate the materials that are returned to the community right now. And so, and we've tried to find another venue, but with acoustics and everything, so we might just have to pause one more time. But hopefully, as COVID is becoming part of our rearview mirror, not our windshield, as I keep saying, we'll be able to get together soon. So we have a motion and we have a second. So all those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, say bye. Bye. And reach out anytime. This is a conversation, not just a one-time thing. So my door and my mind are always open, and I look forward to hearing from you all often. So take care, have a good evening, and be safe. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.